What's going on, everybody? Ben Beck here, host of the Wilhelm Podcast, bringing you another Spotlight Series edition of the podcast. And let me tell you, this one here, in all of my years of podcasting, this is easily one of my favorite conversations I have ever had. I've been working on this one for a while. This conversation is with the wonderful actor William Sadler. Now, William is somebody who you may not know by name, but I promise you, you've seen his face, especially if you're a fan of movies and television like myself. You would know him as Haywood from the Shawshank Redemption, which is quite possibly is my favorite movie of all time. You'd know him as Stewart, which is the main villain who goes up against John McClane in Die Hard 2. But most notably, you might also know him as the Grim Reaper, a.k.a. Death, in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey and Bill and Ted Face the Music. But he's been in a ton of other projects. So again, I promise you, you know his face and you know him. This is, like I said, this is one I've been working on for a while. I'm so happy that William and I finally got the time to have a conversation. And this is a lengthy conversation. This one went for over an hour. And then William and I spoke for probably about another hour even after this conversation was over. And I learned so much more about him. He learned about me. He learned about me because he was interested and he was asking questions. It was a great conversation all around, both recorded and not recorded. But this is the recorded part. And like I said, it's a little over an hour, so I hope you stick with it because every moment of it is great. I got him to play some ukulele on the podcast, which is great. I get the stories about how he got started in Hollywood, his love of music, starting in theater, transitioning from theater to Hollywood. We got some cool stories about Shawshank Redemption and Bill and Ted, including some things about him playing the Grim Reaper in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey that I didn't know that I absolutely loved. And then, of course, learning about him releasing an album soon and getting into music and recording songs. And he was very generous to actually give me a track that he recorded, one that's actually getting some radio play in certain outlets right now. So it's not part of the interview, but it is at the end. So I encourage you to listen to the full conversation and then stick around to the end to hear the song because the song is absolutely wonderful. I really, really enjoyed it. It's really well done. So and that's not me blowing smoke just because William might be listening to this. I really, really, really did enjoy it and I actually told him so afterwards after I got the chance to hear it. So listen to this interview. I hope you enjoy it, this conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Stick around till the end to hear the song. And of course, if you have anything that you want to know, I appreciate any feedback on this conversation or any episodes of Wilhelm. Follow me on social media, Instagram and Twitter at Wilhelm Podcast, Facebook.com/Wilhelm Podcast. And of course, if you have anything you want to let me know, like I said, feedback about this conversation, past conversations, ideas for episodes, you can always let me know directly by emailing me feedback@wilhelmpodcast.com. I encourage and I welcome all the feedback, whether it's positive or constructive. Doesn't matter. As long as you're not a jerk, I'm okay. So enjoy this conversation with William Sadler. Enjoy the song at the end, and thank you for listening and supporting the show, and I'll see you on another episode of Wilhelm down the line. Take care. My guest this time has been a part of over 170 film and television projects, not to mention numerous stage projects. You've seen him as both a prisoner, a prison inmate, a sheriff, a demon hunter, the president of the United States. You've seen him face off against John McClane, and he's even portrayed Death himself on this edition of the Wilhelm Spotlight Series. I'm so incredibly excited to welcome actor William Sadler. William, thank you so much for spending this time with me today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I've been a fan for a while, as I was mentioning to you right before we started this conversation. And I'd be remiss if I didn't jump in right from the start and just gush for a second and say that the Shawshank Redemption is and has been, for as long as I can remember, my favorite movie of all time. And I'm sure you get that a lot.
Wow. Well, thank you. I don't get tired of hearing it. I mean, it's my favorite movie too. Um, yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's Frank Darabont, the director, once said to me, he said it was like we caught lightning in a bottle, meaning you could put all the ingredients together again. There were so many happy accidents that went into making that the film that it was. And I don't think any of us knew at all at the time that we were making it that it would become as beloved as it has been. It's a lot of people that they come back and watch it again. They watch it with their fathers. It's extraordinary. It's really become a part of the fabric of our culture.
Yeah,
which is phenomenal. I'm very proud of it.
It's one of those movies that, like I mentioned, when you have a movie that you love and adore, like Shawshank Redemption, as much as I do with that movie, that you as a cinephile like such as myself who loves movies, I'll give almost anything a chance, and most of the time I usually do enjoy a movie for what it is. But the Shawshank Redemption, when you love a movie, when you find a movie that you love, you try not to overwatch it because you don't want it to ruin the magic of that movie. But Shawshank Redemption tends to be an exception to that rule for myself. I mean, as a matter of fact, knowing that I was speaking with you today, I rewatched it again yesterday. Even though I've seen it more times than I can count and can probably quote more than half the movie, I still ended up watching it again yesterday just because my love for that movie.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. It's also one of those movies, like if I'm clicking around and it's on,
you stop and watch it.
I get stuck there. Oh, wait a minute,
Yeah. And that was one of the things I was going to ask you about it too. I was actually going to save the Shawshank stuff for later, but we might as well get into it now that we're there. One of the questions I had for you, because I'm very curious, because I don't really get to ask this question very often, is, you've already brought up how much you love that movie as well. Does being in a movie such as that kind of change your perspective on how much, on being able to love it? Because
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. It's a little bit, I get very uncomfortable watching myself on film, and it's a little bit like listening to your own voice on a tape recorder if you're not used to that, and you say, I don't sound like that. Who is that? And when I watch myself on film, I'm instantly back in the moment that we shot it. I remember, I can see myself thinking, and I'm constantly, it's just really hard to be objective about it. I'm always thinking, look, what are you doing with your hands? Relax your face. What are you mugging? What do you call that acting? Why?
Yeah. Or I could have done this better in that moment.
Yeah, exactly. And it is what it is. And I'm glad. So now I just, people watch it. I don't give a fuck. They can, it is what it is. And I go, I just go all out. And if people like it, people seem to like it, which is great, but I don't have to watch it. So.
But as you mentioned, you do still watch it when it comes on. Like you said, you flip through the channels.
That one I do because maybe it's because I've seen it so many times, or maybe it's such a goddamn good film,
And it's one of those, like you mentioned, like the lightning in a bottle with that movie. I mean, you look at a director with Frank Darabont, you had a writer in Stephen King, in Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption. You had an amazing crew that worked on that movie. And then in addition to the cast, such as yourself and Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman, like it's such there were so many great elements that came together to make that movie that it's no wonder if you go online and you Google like top 20 films of all time, Shawshank Redemption usually is on that list somewhere, if not at the top.
Right. Which is extraordinary, which is just, I'm constantly blown away by how, and it's funny too, because people tell me, people watch it and tell me how important it's been in their life. Like they watched it with their father when their father was ill. And it's this story of bonding. It's a story of friendship and love and hope, really. And do you hang on to hope, or is hope that thing that gets you hurt? Mm-hmm. And it's just a message that has it just resonates, you know, in the way that the film tells it. It lets you, I don't know.
I get what you're.
I'm amazed at the response. I still am.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. I mean, there's 7 words. There's just one line of dialogue alone that, when you look at what you mentioned about how there are things about the movie that mean more to everybody else, you know, the "get busy living" or "get busy dying" line is, there you go, is the key one for me. It's like, well, okay.
I thought you were going to say my famous line, dumbass.
Alexander Dumbass.
Dumbass? or didn't do it, lawyer fucked me.
I do quote that Alexander Dumbass line quite a bit, because I do have friends who are very literary friends who are into reading, and anytime dumbass. Alexander Dumas comes up, I'm like, you mean dumbass? Like, and it comes from, you know, from my love of that movie. And you know, I can tell you from my personal experience, the other 2 things that I really took away from that movie, other than the friendship that you mentioned between, you know, the 2 main characters, is it made me, 1, terrified of Clancy Brown, and 2, terrified to ever go to prison for any reason.
You were scared straight.
I was scared straight before I was even old enough to do anything to go.
You don't want to meet the sisters.
That's very true.
I know. I'm not surprised. And you must have been very young when you first saw it.
I think I was in high school at the time when that movie came out. Yeah. So
you were still impressionable, though.
Yeah. Very, very true.
He's got a pretty mouth.
Anybody come at you yet? So let's go back a little, much further back. And
okay,
one of the things that I found out about you that I want you to kind of clarify on a little bit. Tell me a little bit more about Banjo Bill, because I know that's back towards the very beginning of your career.
I think I have a banjo here. I learned to play. My father played the ukulele, and he got a baritone when I was about 6 or 7. He got a baritone ukulele, and I got the tenor ukulele, the littler one. Mm-hmm. And we used to sit and play together. And then he got a guitar, and I said, I want to learn to play the banjo. What I wanted was a 5-string. I wanted to learn to play bluegrass, that thing that Earl Scruggs does, you know, that Bonnie and Clyde, Foggy Mountain Breakdown. And the television was full of hootenannies and folk, you know, I was in a folk band. But I wanted to play the banjo. He went out and bought a 4-string banjo, which is it's a different animal. You can't play bluegrass on it. It's really you coax the blues right out of the horn. It's one of those banjos. But I took lessons on it for a couple of years. And then in high school, I don't know, I guess I was trying to get on stage in some fashion. And I tried out for the variety show, the high school variety show, my junior year, just telling jokes and playing the banjo. And I called myself Banjo Bill Sadler. And I told, I told all these awful, corny jokes, and played the banjo. And I won like second prize in the variety show. It was like people with audience, when there was finally an audience there, they were howling. They thought, I guess the jokes were funny. And the next year, so I started to go around Buffalo playing the banjo until I was doing stand-up. And I would play at, fire halls and Grange halls. And finally, somewhere along the line, I discovered acting, where other people had done the writing, and and I was instantly fell in love with that and what was available to learn in that world, as opposed to, just standing up and telling the same jokes or making up new jokes, or it wasn't. And there were a couple of nights when I just fell right on my face with the jokes, where there was like a silence that you could cut with a knife. And I was young and impressionable. And so I decided to put Banjo Bill aside and focus on acting. I actually had an English teacher who said, he saw me doing this Banjo Bill thing, and he said, why don't you come and try out for this play? We're doing Harvey.
Oh, I've done Harvey.
What did you play?
I was, for the life of me, I can't remember the character. He was the
cab driver, or
no. Oh, he worked at the hospital. He was the kind of like the attendant that was moving him around a lot. But I did Harvey in high school. Elwood, that's it.
I did.
Yes,
I played Elwood, and who talks to this imaginary rabbit.
Yeah, talks to the rabbit. Yeah,
and then it was fabulous. It was great fun, and it led to a community theater play that I did. That was a 3-character drama called "The Subject Was Roses," that won a Pulitzer Prize on Broadway, and it launched Martin Sheen's career. And that one just tore my head off. It just I was blown away by just the quality of the writing, and the experience of peeling back this onion, because you work backwards from what they say and try to figure out who would say that. Where would you have to be to say something like that to your father?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a great learning experience for me, and it all of a sudden I couldn't get enough of it.
Well, I mean, some of the elements of what you described, as far as, playing the banjo and telling the jokes and having that awkward silence of a joke falling flat. I mean, that's something that a lot of stand-up comedians go through now in getting started as well. I mean, everybody,
sure, of course,
everybody bombs on stage at some point in their career, and you got it out relatively early, and it kind of drove your passion in a different direction of, of going towards the acting and moving towards theater, which
I was also, I think I was, and my mom was great about this too. My dad always sort of wanted me to go into the, keep doing the stand-up comedy. My mom saw theater and it was theater, it wasn't film. It was theater as an avenue that I had a talent for, and that and she took me to the Shaw Festival at Niagara on the Lake, and watched George Bernard Shaw plays. And we went to the Shakespeare Festival in Ontario, Canada. We lived in Buffalo. And it just made sure that I was getting exposed to these things that were around. And it's hard to describe, but I needed at that moment in my life, I was wrestling with all kinds of the normal sorts of emotions that an 18-year-old kid is, and my parents are going through a divorce, and it's the Vietnam War is raging, and there's like, I'm going through life, I'm like an electric wire, but I needed someone. I needed someone to help me understand humans, help me understand this. And what I found in the theater was Anton Chekhov and Shakespeare and William Butler Yeats and all these brilliant writers were showing us. They're holding people up and saying, "Look, this is who we are," And so it was. My education began. It was about understanding people more than.
I mean, in a sense,
anything else.
I guess in a sense, theater was almost like a window. I mean, these plays and such that you did were, I guess, kind of like a window into the human element. You've got all these different variety of characters that, have all these different personality traits and, written by somebody who's kind of in the mind of all of it as well. And
if you're just studying it, if it's like literature and you're just reading it, it's one thing. But if you memorizing these characters' words and you're like you're finding those emotions in yourself. Mm-hmm. You're understanding it on a different level. And I just found that it just fed. I was so hungry to learn. I did nothing but play after play after play.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, you've done well over like 70, 75, plays and theater shows. When you were making that transition from, the banjo playing comedian to the actor on theater, did you have like a genre in mind? Did you want to stay comedy and go more comedic? Did you want to dive right into the drama? Like what was your mindset when making that move?
I don't think I was aiming for a particular genre. I was, like I said, the first play that the subject was roses was written by Frank Gilroy, this Pulitzer Prize winning 3-character drama. I mean, that's the one that just woke me up, like, because he's like, it's a father, an abusive, drunk father, a mother, and this kid who comes back from the army, and he can't look at his parents the same way again. He's not going back to what was there before. Mm-hmm. He sees them with fresh eyes, and I don't know. I didn't have a particular genre in mind. It was all fair game.
More of whatever you read and just stuck with you or resonated with you. That was what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
For someone like me, I performed, like I mentioned, I did Harvey in high school.
Right.
I did Shakespeare in high school. I did musical theater in high school as well. I did Hello, Dolly and Little Shop of Horrors, and then continued on a little bit in college. I'm now in my early 40s, and for the past couple of years, I've actually been contemplating going back and doing local theater. So much so that actually,
where do you live?
I live in Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania. I live right outside of Philadelphia. So there's a lot of stage areas that are around here that, like, as far as like local troops and things like that do shows. So much so that in about 2 weeks, I'm actually auditioning for my first thing in over 15 years. And I'm auditioning for a stage version of Clue.
Oh, nice.
So for someone who's as seasoned as you, who has done it, and looking at someone like me who has it in about 15 years and is going to be delivering their first monologue ever since that time in almost 2 decades, what kind of advice would you have for me and someone who's trying to get back into it, if any?
My only advice regarding there's only a couple of things that I ever suggest to young actors. One of them is do theater, and the other one is, if you start making money, do something smart with it so that you, because it goes away and it comes and it goes away and so on. But I find that I find the character's emotion in saying what they're saying. The emotion is in the words. It's not something you have to lay on top of it. You have to let yourself get moved by what it is you're saying. And then the meaning of the scene becomes clear. Then you're not the one causing this thing. And the best thing is, I mean, you learn it so that you know your lines, you know your cues, but you really know your lines, but you know them so well you can almost forget them. And let what the other person says remind you let that be the thing that brings out the next line, so that it's like a tennis match. If they hit the ball over here, you hear it over here, as if you don't know what they're going to say or what you're going to answer. And then that keeps it alive. It's really, really good when it feels like an improv. It's not an improv. Everybody knows exactly what's going to happen.
But to feel more natural.
But if it feels like I don't know I don't know where this is going tonight. I don't know where this is. I don't know what she's going to say, or then it's easy. Then it's easy to get caught up in it. And if you can get caught up in it a little, the audience comes along. They want to buy it. They're they want to believe something that they're seeing.
No, I'm looking forward to it, and I appreciate the little bit of feedback, because it gives me a little bit more confidence going into it too. Because again, I haven't done it in 15 plus years, so I'm a little nervous. Okay. But out of all the theater that you did you ever dive into musical theater at all, or was it all just stage plays?
I've done a couple of musicals. I did the history of the American film. Played the Jimmy Cagney character. I got to sing and tap dance. That was fun. I've never been a strong, like a Broadway singing voice, which is weird, because now I'm writing and recording songs left and right, because I've always written songs, and now I have this voice that I have, and it sounds like, but in any case, I was one of the muleteers in Man of La Mancha, and I've worked around the edges of musicals. I've in college, but I guess I've never been the strong singing voice that could carry.
Never the leading man in a musical.
No. No, I've been the lead. Yeah, I tend, and for some reason, people tend to see me in the heavier roles. The asshole, or the killer, or Krogstad in The Doll's House, or the villain of the piece. And I used to get kind of annoyed because you tend to get pigeonholed, and people. I'm glad I'm good at being evil. That's fun. Die Hard 2 and so on.
Yeah,
and I'm glad that people hire me for something, which is, at the end of the day, if you can't be James Bond, you want to be Dr. No.
Yeah.
And you can't have a James Bond without a great evil motherfucker,
yes.
Threatening the whole world. He's got to be huge, and he's got to be evil.
So speaking of Die Hard 2, that I know that was still relatively early in your, one of your first major roles that you did. What made you make the transition from theater to film at that point and get into roles like that?
I had done, I moved to New York. I did 4 years of undergraduate at Geneseo, State University College of Geneseo. Then I got a scholarship to study acting at Cornell for 2 years. And I got a MFA at Cornell. And then I started doing theater. I moved to New York. I met my wife. I was doing off Broadway and off Broadway, and then a year and a half on Broadway. But I spent almost 11 years in New York City, and at the Long Wharf and Trinity Square and the Yale Rep, New York Shakespeare Festival. I did it for a long, long time, and then after I did Biloxi Blues on Broadway for a year and a half or something with Matthew Broderick. Matthew went off to do this movie called Project X. Mm-hmm. And they cast me as the villain, as the heavy in Project X. And I had never done big movie. This was at 20th Century Fox. And so they flew us out. And while we were there, staying in a hotel in Santa Monica, my wife had her baby, our baby, and I made this movie, and it was hard to go back to. I had done a lot of theater, and I've always loved theater, but it's movies became. As I started to explore movies, there's this world of possibilities that are available that aren't available in the theater. Not to mention the money. So I suddenly had to buy baby shoes and diapers and a used car to get around LA, and so I spent the next 15 years or so in Los Angeles with Marnie and our daughter doing movies. That's when. So when you say, I sort of broke into the movies by way of the theater. I think I did. What was the first one? I did like The Hot Spot with Dennis Hopper directing. That was pretty early on, and Steven Seagal, Hard
to Kill, yeah.
Another asshole. Those were both assholes. And then I did Tales from the Crypt, The Man Who Was Death, the very first episode.
Yes.
And the executive producers on the show were Joel Silver, Walter Hill, Dick Donner, Bob Zemeckis, and they. The very next thing that Joel Silver was doing was Die Hard 2. And he just said, do you want to? That episode, that 1.5 hour episode was sort of my audition for all of those people. And Joel Silver offered me, do you want to play the villain in Die Hard 2? And I said, yes. Yeah. How fast can I say yes here? And then, and Frank Darabont, who directed Shawshank Redemption, was one of the writers on Tales from the Crypt.
Okay, that I didn't know.
And he came up to me on the set and said, I'm going to do this movie called Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. I don't have a script yet, but I want you to be in it. And I thought, everybody in Los Angeles has got a movie script in their back pocket, of course you're going to make this movie. But that one episode, I did a film called Trespass with Walter Hill. After that, I did Demon Knight for Joel Silver after that. So it's sort of, and then and then the movies that I did with Frank, the Mist and the Green Mile, and Shawshank, they all sort of blossomed out of that episode of Tales from the Crypt.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned, out of all the projects that you just mentioned and the films that you just mentioned, Die Hard 2, Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, you did, I know, another episode of Tales from the Crypt where you just appeared as the Grim Reaper again. And I know you did an appearance in Bordello of Blood as the Mummy, but of course there's Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey and right. Shawshank. And of all the projects that you've done, I feel like different generations view each of these different things for different reasons. What do you think is the one project you probably get recognized for the most?
Wow.
I mean,
it's hard to say. I think it might be I did 3 episodes of Deep Space Nine. And the Star Trek people are
they're hardcore. They're diehard.
They're hardcore.
Yeah.
Like I'll be walking down the street and they'll start calling out lines that I said I only did 3 episodes before they killed me. But that was enough. I get recognized for that. I get recognized for Roswell. I did a series called Roswell for 3 years, which was great fun. I did a series. I get recognized for television. I did a series called Power. I was a regular on that show for 2 years. I played Tommy's dad, and it was great. The writing was terrific. The people were wonderful. But there's something about television because it's so much of it is in close up, and so much, and because you're in people's living rooms, you're in their bedrooms, you're in their kitchens. Wow, they're watching you. You're in their house, and and you're in there every week in close up, and they feel like they really get to know you. You become. It's different from doing a movie where you go to the movies and you see all these people, but then you don't see them again for, months and months. You may not see them for 3 years until the next movie that they do or whatever. You do a television series and people really, then you can't go into restaurants without people's. And my favorite thing, and I don't mind being recognized. I really don't, because most people are very cool about it, and they just say, "I loved you in Power." They'll come over and, I didn't want to say anything. I don't want to interrupt your dinner, but you were great in Shawshank. So just that's all, and then step away that's my favorite. That's my favorite acknowledgement.
Yeah. It's, you mentioned Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine is actually the one Star Trek series that I had never watched. I'm currently watching it now. I'm currently in the midst of my first watch through now. I just finished season 4 not too long ago. So I actually haven't gotten to the part where your character comes in yet. But I remember telling people, when I knew I was having you on the program and I mentioned, your name and everything, you're like, I had friends who know I'm watching Deep Space Nine. They're like, he shows up in Deep Space Nine, right? And I'm like, yeah, I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I'm excited for when it happens. So I know, how hard, like, as we mentioned, how hardcore those Star Trek fans can be. I know me. I'm
also kind of a prick in that one.
Well, that's good to know too. So now I won't get
just so
attached to your character. Yeah.
I think the thing that sold me on it, the very first time you see him, he's sitting in Dr. Bashir's bedroom watching the doctor sleep.
Well, that's not creepy.
That's not creepy at all.
It's not creepy at all.
Like the doctor wakes up and is like, how fucking long have you been sitting there? Like, yeah. And that's how you meet this guy. So it's like,
I'm looking forward to that. We mentioned Tales from the Crypt and working with Frank Dernbont and Dick Donner and all those. I know, I mentioned Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight is another movie that it sounds weird to say you adore a horror movie, unless you're a horror movie like I am, a horror fan like I am, but it's the truth. Like, I adore Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight. I remember going to see that movie in theaters with, of all people, my mother. And like, ordinarily, like you see a movie like that where there's like topless bar scenes and like all this and gratuitous sex and all this stuff, and you're like, well, you would walk out of a theater feeling very awkward having sat with a parent watching that when you're still that young of age. I was maybe 16, 17 years old, but I remember loving that movie so much after having seen it that I didn't feel awkward at all. I was like, the love I had for seeing it for the first time, like, overshadowed any awkwardness I would have had.
That's extraordinary. I'm glad to hear that. I know people I thought Billy Zane was phenomenal.
He's fantastic. Yeah.
Maybe the best thing he's ever done. I mean, the Titanic. I've never talked to him about it, but he just chewed the scenery, and we had a ball. We had a great time with that, and the cast. Again, it was Ernest Dickerson who directed it, put together this. That was also Joel Silver Pictures, going all the way back to Tales from the Crypt. But he put together this, cast. Holy crap. I mean, CCH Pounder and Thomas Church,
Dick Miller, and
Jada Pinkett and Dick Miller. And it's like everywhere you look, there's somebody fun to watch. So yeah, and we shot it for $1.98. We shot it. I don't know how much they spent on that movie, but they didn't spend much of it on us, I'll tell you. And we shot it in an abandoned airplane hangar in Sherman Oaks, California. And there were pigeons in the rafters, I remember, because they used to have to fire off a blank to scare the pigeons away and then say, action. Otherwise, all the way through the scene, you would hear 40 pigeons all talking to each other at once. It was good fun. It was great fun to do.
It was one of those movies. I remember being a big fan of Tales from the Crypt when it was originally on HBO, and when it was announced that there was a film of Tales from the Crypt coming out, that was where the first excitement came from. And I know, I'm very familiar with the 2 episodes of Tales from the Crypt that you did, only because over the pandemic, when everybody was at home and people were starting to binge watch a lot of things, I know a lot of people went to comedies and things like that. I used it as an opportunity, and I went through and I rewatched all the episodes, every episode of Tales from the Crypt.
Oh, you do like horror?
I do. And it reminded me, because I hadn't watched them probably in over 20 years, probably since they first aired on HBO, how many up and coming stars were in that series along the way. I mean, Christopher Reeve and Bobcat Gold, like, so many people.
Well, it sort of became this ginchy thing in Hollywood. It was like, Schwarzenegger wanted to do it. And I mean, these people that were already, big in the movies, everybody wanted to do one of these funky, because I think they looked at them and said, this is like the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
This is going to be, when it's all done, these are going to be like Twilight Zone episodes. And you want to have one of those, you want to be, and so there were lots of people who wanted to be, who wanted to direct them, wanted to act in them. But I was lucky, and I was lucky enough to do the very, very, very first one. They did 3 episodes. Joey Pantaleone was in one, and I forget the third one. But Larry Drake, I think, was in the third one, but it was, but they bought 3 episodes to try it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I know if it hadn't, if it hadn't sold, if they hadn't been popular, it would have, HBO was brand new. They would have just dumped it. But ours was up for an ACE award. Didn't win, but
just the fact that you were nominated, you were up for that award. I mean, that had to be some kind of praise. Yeah.
It's very encouraging.
Yeah. I mean, and then you seem to continue that relationship. As I mentioned, you showed up again as the Grim Reaper just for fun next to the Crypt Keeper in the intro of an episode. You got to do Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight, which I would say, you're pretty much classified as a character actor because of a lot of the roles that you take. But I think that was a step above that for you, because in essence, you and Jada Pickett towards the end, you pretty much were the hero. You were the protagonist of the film for most of it.
Right. It was a terrific opportunity. I really liked it. I acted my brains out.
Yeah. I don't think,
it didn't do. I think it did okay at the box office. There were going to be 3 of those movies, and Demon Knight was going to be the first one, and then Bordello of Blood, and then there was a third one. And Demon Knight did okay, but Bordello of Blood didn't do as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so they scrapped the third one altogether.
And I know there was talks for a while, at least a couple years ago, of the possibility of, I think it was TNT was the network. They were going to reboot Tales from the Crypt. They were going to bring it back. And,
really?
And I believe M. Night Shyamalan.
You mean with new stories and
with new stories,
new actors, new stories.
And I think M. Night Shyamalan was one of the writers behind it. But I think it ended up getting canceled or canned before it ever came to happen. So, I mean, and that's the life we live in now, is with the internet and social media, is that you get the news of these projects coming up, and then when they don't happen, you get disappointed.
But they disappear without it's like Walter Hill used to say, down without a bubble.
Mm-hmm.
They're just gone. These things, I don't know how people get things produced now that it's, there are dozens and dozens of channels and product being made all the time by all these different places. But one of the things that they used to do with television anyway was they would put a pilot episode on. Networks would buy 9 episodes or 14 episodes, and they'd shoot them all, and they'd give it a slot on Tuesday night at 9:00 or something. And they'd give the audience time to find it, because it takes time to find it. You got to, you have to stumble on it or hear about it and go. This is in the old days before you could watch it anytime you wanted. Mm-hmm. Who cares, But in the old days, you had to make an appointment and sit down. You had to be in front of your TV at 8:00 on Wednesday night or whatever. But it seems to me that they took, there were shows that went on and ran for 14 years that became huge, huge hits that did nothing in the first half season. Mm-hmm. It took people. I'm thinking of the show MASH, that became such a monster hit back then. Or Cheers.
Cheers was one I was going to mention.
It's like nobody. You had to hang around. You had to see enough episodes to like these people, get to know these people, and then you're invested in it, and then it becomes this thing, and then you can't let go of it.
Yeah. Nowadays, you see these shows that are that are filmed, they're sent to pilot, and the pilot's filmed and it doesn't make it past the executives to even be aired.
Right.
Or it airs and then 3 episodes of it air, and after 3 episodes it's news like, oh well, this show was,
and like, who saw the 3 episodes? How do you even, how do you judge something like that? It's very bizarre. I think they do the same thing with movies. A movie will come out and it's in the theaters for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
If it's not set, if it's not sold out wall to wall, every screening.
Yeah. If it didn't make its money,
give me the next one. Give me the next one.
If it didn't make its money back in the opening weekend, then they're not satisfied. And
yeah, which is something. I mean, that doesn't make for great television or great films.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you.
There are things that.
I mean, and you look at some movies. Using movies as an example, you look at some movies that find more of a popularity once it hit home video, or now with streaming.
Shawshank was that way.
You mentioned Demon Knight. I mean, we talked about Demon Knight and you said how it did okay in the box office. I know I have tons of friends who absolutely love that movie.
Who own the VCR episode.
Yeah, I actually have a friend. My friend Paul actually has Demon Knight on VHS because he still collects, VHS, and he's a huge horror man. So he has tons of horror movies on.
There must be lots of stuff out there that has never been transferred to DVDs. There must be tons of old horror movies and things.
I'm sure
cheesy Hammer films and what have you that never made it to the discs or streaming services or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before we get ready to wrap things up, I know it would be a huge mistake on my part if I don't bring up Bill and Ted and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. I think that is another project of yours that people recognize you from,
really?
and playing, and playing the character of Death, and in such a way that you wouldn't expect the character of Death to become a fan favorite in a film, but just the way you portrayed him and the way the character was written, I will tell you that when Face the Music was announced, I wasn't on board until I heard that you had signed to reprise the role of Death.
Oh, sweet.
Like, that's how much I liked the character that you played.
Hardcore.
Yeah. I mean, you can give me Keanu and such, because I'm a fan of his as well. But once you were announced that Death was returning to that universe in that movie, I was like, yep, now I'm on board because I want to know what happened.
That was in discussion for a long time before we finally shot Face the Music. I was hearing from the writers, from Ed Solomon. I was hearing. He called me and said, "Are you interested? And we're gonna write. We want to write the Grim Reaper in, and see what happened to his recording career after he left the Wild Stallions. And he's put out albums that are just bass. There's nothing on them except the bass, and his drug rehab. And he was, I was never going to say, no, I'm not going to do this again. Mm-hmm. Which it was the first one 30 years ago was, in some ways it was easier because I was younger. I had a lot of energy. It was like, it's easier to wear the robes. It's easy, because it's kind of taxing, just the physical doing it. But the character is so fun. The character was, once I had the makeup and the robes on, and once I was in character, I couldn't shut up. I kept making up in the first one, especially. I kept making up stuff. That whole exchange about what about my butt? I work out all the time, and reaping burns a load of calories. They're looking at these guys, the station's butts, and talking about their butts, and he's so insecure. Just, what about my butt? But it just came.
So that was improv a lot?
That was improv. I wrote the Reaper rap, that you might be a king or a little street sweeper, but sooner or later you dance with the Reaper. That was mine. There's a moment where, I mean, they wrote a lot of wonderful stuff for him to do. The games were all there. That was all the writers, having him become more and more peevish and frustrated, and he's just a shitty loser. Best 2 out of 3, best 3 out of 5,
best of 7. Damn right.
It's like, what a lousy loser he is. Which is just it's just charming as hell. It punctures this big scary guy as just a petulant little shit. But then he wants them to like him. And that's when it really started to be fun.
Yeah.
Well, like there's a moment with the director, Peter Hewitt. We're shopping in a hardware store. We're shooting at night in this hardware store because we had to shoot at night because it's closed. And I said, it'd be great if the Reaper we see somebody smoking a cigarette in the Reaper cut, because we're just walking by and says, "See you real soon." And the guy puts a cigarette out. And Peter liked the idea, but it's not in the script. He said, "Bring the camera." That's the director. Peter was the guy. The director is the guy who's smoking. And we shot it in 2 seconds, and it's in the movie. And it's just this like little boop, boop.
Yeah.
But it was really lovely to put my funny hat on again and think, oh, it'd be great. And some of it didn't get in, but some of it did. But it was just great. I loved the Reaper. I loved his energy.
Did you get to do any of the improvisation for Face the Music as well? Or did any of that?
A little bit. Again, once I put it on, I thought, 30 years have gone by. Like, what's this going to feel like on the set? When we got back together again, it was like no time had passed at all. Mm-hmm. It was like we left the conversation off before lunch and picked it up again an hour later. And in the heat of that argument that they're having about his 40-minute bass solos and all of that stuff, and he says, "You kicked me out of he says something like, you kicked me out of the Wild Stallions." He said, "You were doing 40-minute bass solos, dude." And I said, "I was in the groove." And that wasn't in the script. Some of that I added. Pale on Pale, I added like a nod to Bob Dylan, mm-hmm. Blonde on Blonde. I couldn't stop. I sort of couldn't stop bubbling. I'm not. I don't do it with all my characters. But for some reason with him, it feels right.
That's so fantastic, because that makes me love that character even more, knowing that, when that, like you said, the "what about my butt," and knowing that you improvise those lines just kind of makes me, first off, it makes me want to go back and rewatch the movie again, just because I haven't seen it in a while and I want to hear those lines again. But it makes me just love that movie even more now, and love that character even more now, knowing that that wasn't just a well-written character in a lot of ways. It's part of you as well, because you were the one that improvised those lines. So they came from you, not from the writer of the movie. So knowing that character was a little bit more of you than I expected, it makes me love that character even more.
I don't get a chance to play funny very often. And that was a chance to be, actually, you're going to be silly. This is a silly moment. This is a silly man. This is so it was like the gloves came off,
Yeah.
whatever. So the rules fell away. And I got to be, and it was like that stand-up comic, it was Banjo Bill again with his jokes, because I've always been funny. I've always had a sense of humor. But I don't always get a chance to use it.
You got the opportunity to actually express that part of yourself.
I really got the opportunity, and I was not going to waste it. So.
I wouldn't have either. That's fantastic. Before I let you go, I know you have a number of projects coming up, but I know one of the ones that I'm very interested in hearing, you're returning yet again to the world of Stephen King. What can you tell me about Salem's Lot that's coming out soon?
I don't know when it's coming. I think it's in the summer. I don't know the date it's coming out, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see that one. The little bits that I've seen in ADR. I don't usually like to watch myself, but I don't. I'm going to correct something on the internet right now. I don't play Barlow.
Okay.
That's a rumor. That's an ugly rumor that's out there. Barlow is played by a wonderful actor, but it's not me. And I sort of have a more comic role in this thing, which is really fun. But I found the movie was getting back into the Stephen King world, scary as fuck. Just he's so good. He's such a terrific writer, and this adaptation, I think, is a really good one. The people are believable. The people are human. So you care about them. They're not. They're not superheroes. They're not flawless. Perfect. These are people you might see around your hometown, and they're up against something that they have no understanding of.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be really, really good. I haven't seen the whole movie yet. I've only seen bits and pieces, but I was really excited. And again, it had to do with the way that it was directed, the sort of the freedom that, trusting the actors and letting stuff come out, letting, not micromanaging some, as is sometimes the case. It's always more fun if you can, trust the people that you've hired to cook something up for you. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's what we did.
Yeah, I know.
But that should be great. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm a big fan of Stephen King work as well. I mean, I was a big fan of when, especially with a lot of these recent adaptations. I mean, the It remakes were fantastic. Right. I'm a huge fan of The Mist. I know that wasn't too long ago. And obviously Shawshank and Green Mile I think are fantastic. But The Stand show, the series that just came out not too long ago, was great. So when I heard that there was a new adaptation of Salem's Lot coming, I got excited because I'm looking forward to seeing it as well.
There's another movie that's coming out that's that I'm excited about. It's called A Stage of Twilight. It's with Karen Allen, and she and I play a married couple of a certain age. And I never get to play humans. I never get to play somebody who's just in love and, having a life and dealing with what people deal with when they get older, Mm-hmm. And Sarah Schwab wrote it and directed it, and Karen is beautiful. Karen is great in it. Karen's beautiful in it. And it's just this drama that we shot it last summer, and I think it's making the festival circuit. You'll have to look for it at the film festivals before it comes out on streaming somewhere or in the theaters. But I'm truly jazzed about it. I came away from the project thinking That may be the best acting that I've ever done.
That makes me really excited to see. I mean, especially mentioning Karen Allen too. I mean, because me personally, I'm sure she has done other projects, but I mean, it feels like I haven't seen her in a while on screen. So I'd be really looking forward to that as you know, to seeing that as well. And like you said, playing somebody who's more human rather than a character.
Right. I don't kill anybody. I'm not being chased by demons, zombies, because the two of them are very central to this story. They're on every page almost. And what they're going through. I've never been asked to do that as an actor on film before. And
so it's new territory even for you as an actor.
It was almost all new territory for me. I didn't, which made it really exciting, which made it, every day was how do we do this? How do I do that? And like I said, I came away from it feeling like this may be the best acting that I've ever done, the best performance I've ever
I'm really excited to see this.
So I was very pleased.
Is it original story or is it based off of like anything literary?
It's based off of Sarah Schwab's personal story, her family story. She wrote it sort of based on her dad and her mom and what happened and so on, with modifications, but yeah, it's a personal story and I think it's a sweet movie.
And it's called A Stage of Twilight?
A Stage of Twilight.
I'll have to keep my eye out for that one because that does sound, again, I'm a huge cinephile, so I watch, in addition to comedy and horror, I like dramatic movies and things like that. So I'm
a cinephile.
I watch anything. Most of my nights most of my days consist of working during the day into the evening, and then my ass is planted in my recliner, usually from like 8-9 o'clock until the end of the night, watching something new. And because I just love, I love cinema. I love, it's one of the reasons why I started this podcast, is because I get to talk about movies. I get to speak to wonderful people such as yourself about those movies and dive into those conversations. So it's one of the reasons why I was incredibly excited to be able to set this up to have this conversation with you, because again, I've been a fan for a long time. So, and I get excited. Like, you're one of those people that I get excited anytime I see you pop up. I mean, even, in, McGarrett from Hawaii Five-0, you showed up in a couple episodes as Steve McGarrett's father. And I was a fan of that show, and I became a bigger fan of that show when I saw you pop up as Jack.
Fun? Well, thank you. I just, it's funny. I said, you were talking about the transition between theater and into film. It took me a few films to figure it out, to really sort of get my feet wet and understand that they're trying to take a photograph of, they're trying to take a picture of you, it's different. And I'd spent so many years doing theater that there was I had to learn this new form, and what you can do in a close-up. And then it began to become clear to me that within this world, within this frame, within a close-up, there's a universe of possibilities, that it's not limiting. It's not this tiny little thing. I have to fit into this little frame and I can't move because they're taking my picture. It was like, no, they're looking. You can create a world inside that little frame, and it's almost effortless. You can, it's like if you watch the penny drop in an actor's, an actor realizing something in the moment, it's all you have to do is let the thought flicker across your mind, and the audience goes, "Oh shit, he knows,"
Mm-hmm.
he's on to her. Boom, 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 boom. I started to fall in love with film as a craft, I would watch the actors that I'd fallen in love with and watched over the years, all my heroes were film stars, the Robert Duvall's and the John Cassell and Al Pacino, and George C. Scott, and all of these phenomenal actors. But there was tremendous power in the stillness, I'm not describing this very well.
No, I do kind of get it though.
But when you finally understand the power of that gadget, that camera, and that, the weight that you can carry in that stillness,
mm-hmm.
or the story you can tell with the look, it's awesome.
Well, I mean,
it's truly awesome.
To kind of dive into that idea, like as you mentioned about how there can be an entire universe in a single frame. One of the roles that you did that we didn't really bring up was playing President Ellis in Iron Man 3 and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and entering the world of the MCU. Is it, when you enter a world like that, you talk about an entire universe inside a single frame, but when you talk about a project like that, there's also what has become this massive universe outside of that frame as well. I mean, was that something that was maybe a little intimidating at all, taking on a role like that?
It was. I'd never done anything. I had done sort of big action film sort of things before, but I'd never done so much green screen. And there was a lot about that was new to me. I had things that I had to get used to, things that I had to learn how to deal with. It's like you're hanging from a harness wearing blue underwear with dots all over it for the computer. And you're 20 feet off of the stage in this green screen place, and the director's down on the floor looking at a television monitor saying, "Okay, look to the left. Yeah, now lower, a little bit lower. Okay, they're shooting at you. Okay." He's making sounds with his mouth. And it was sort of a different kind of, acting. It reminded me a bit of when I was a kid on the farm, running around the barn, with my BB gun and my friend from down the street, and we would dive out of the hayloft and come up shooting, and look out behind you, just making this shit up.
It really is like a bigger game of make believe and pretend, just with bigger toys, really.
Exactly. Because they're not there. They're not really shooting it. There's a fire underneath you.
Raise your feet up.
Yeah.
I know, this world of the MCU is so massive, and I know you portrayed President Ellis in Iron Man and in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Has there ever been any talks or conversations about you returning to the MCU at any point?
Not that I've heard. When I finished filming, they were saying, "Well, you're now the president in the Marvel universe."
Yeah, exactly.
And I thought, great. I'm totally good with that. But I don't know. They went a different way.
Yeah, it's a shame, but at least you got to be a part of it for. But
I got I can't. How do I complain about that? I got to be part of that franchise, which I love. I love the Iron Man. I was a huge fan of the Iron Man movies. anyway, so it was great to be a part of it.
Yeah. One final thing before I let you go, just more on a personal note. What are you into like right now? Like as far as any movies recently that you've watched and really enjoyed, any television shows that you're enjoying now?
I saw I think it's called Everything Everywhere All at Once.
All at Once, yes.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it's an amazing film.
Breathtaking.
Yeah.
Absolutely breathtaking.
Michelle Yeoh is just
holy crap. Just mail her the Academy Award or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about it. Just and the thing my daughter was saying, this is great. You got to watch it. You got to watch it. So we sat down to watch it, and the first 10, 15 minutes of it, we're in a Chinese laundromat and they're having problems with the IRS. They're getting audited, and then all of a sudden, I won't spoil it for your listeners, but all of a sudden the world flips over and you're like,
yeah.
What the fuck just happened?
I was kind of the same way.
And once it goes there, once it starts to go there,
it never leaves.
It never stops, and it's just breathtaking. I thought it was fantastic.
And the one thing I loved about that movie more than anything was when you get to the end and you realize what this story was really about.
The heart at the center of it.
Yeah, it was just, it was so good.
Yeah. There's one I could recommend.
Yeah. I don't know if you're this is another one I've been recommending to people lately. That was one I was recommending for a while. I don't know if you are a fan of Nicolas Cage at all.
Yeah.
But The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, his latest movie with him and Pedro Pascal.
I keep meaning to see that. You think it's great?
I'm a big Nicolas Cage fan. I love some of his like 90s action movies like Con Air and Face Off and The Rock. And
I auditioned for Con Air.
Did you really? What role in particular do you remember?
The one that Malkovich got.
Oh, Cyrus the Virus. Yeah. But of course, the villain role. Yeah. I honestly think it might be one of my favorite Nicolas Cage movies that I've ever seen.
Wow.
And which is odd because he's playing himself.
Raising Arizona?
That's a tough call.
Yeah.
Because Raising Arizona.
Well, I gotta watch it. I'll check it out.
Yeah, that's a good, that would be my recommendation to you.
The other thing I'm doing right now is I mentioned it before, I'm writing songs and I'm recording them. And I'm sort of sneaking them out on YouTube. William Sadler, The Kitchen Tapes, as opposed to Bob Dylan, The Basement Tapes. During the pandemic, I started to record them, and now I'm recording them with lots of other musicians, and like putting together like really nice versions of these songs. And I just wrote one that I really, really like. That's it has to do with gun safety, and it's called Thoughts and Prayers. And I sent it to this indie radio station called Hanging on Web Radio. If you Google that, the station will come up, and then it's an online indie radio station. But they got but they liked it so much they immediately said, "We're putting it on." I sang it with my guitar at the kitchen table, so it's this funky recording, but it's powerful, and the message is urgent. The message is fantastic, and it's delivered. And I guess the packaging is fun enough that it has an impact.
Yeah.
So I write songs. Who knew?
Are they going to be just as YouTube videos, or do you have any plans to put out an album at any point?
I'm working on the album. I don't know how you launch an album these days. I'm getting advice about put it out on iTunes or Spotify or, all of the streaming services. You can put out one song at a time, and then the next month put out another one, and the next month put out another one. That's been suggested to me. So I have 2 of them mastered already and ready to go. And I've got 2 more that are being mastered at the moment at Master Disc in Peekskill, New York. But yeah, but anyway, yeah, it's fun, and it's keeps me out of trouble.
I know you mentioned, obviously we talked about the banjo playing, and you mentioned even having one, I think you said behind you in the video. I don't know if you've ever met Steve Martin.
Yeah. No.
But I know he's a very well-known banjo player in Hollywood.
Oh no, his father bought him the right kind of banjo. My dad didn't. My dad bought me the 4-string that you play, oh, when the saints go marching in, which is fine, which is swell, What I wanted to learn was what Pete Seeger was doing, that frailing and the 4-string band, the 5-string banjo. I never quite got her. I have 5-string banjos now. I shouldn't blame my dad for everything. He tried, but yeah, now it's guitars. I'm better on the guitar than I ever was on the banjo. And so I write some of what I write on guitar. So
I think through this conversation and through what we've seen with Bill and Ted and such, you very clearly do still have the comedic chops. So I mean, maybe why not just once for the kitchen tapes, just do a return to Banjo Bill, just to give a couple minutes of Banjo Bill in the kitchen tapes. Take it back to your roots. Take it back to the start.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
I can't think of a better way to wrap it up than that, to be honest with you. William, this has been absolutely delightful. I'm so thankful. You've been so generous with your time in this conversation that we've been having.
I've been having fun.
So thank you so much for being here. I'm sure my audience is going to love it too. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to put links to your kitchen tapes in, with the show notes for this.
Yeah, no, find the kitchen tapes. I'll see if I can send you. I'll see if I can send you a link to the Hanging with Web radio. And they liked the song so they got so behind this message and this song that they wrote the whole article that came out with the song yesterday.
Okay. So it's still relatively fresh. Fresh news right now. Yeah.
This just happened. And I mean, there's so much going on in the news. I can't write songs fast enough. And I don't write political songs as a rule, but this one just kind of fell out of my head and it felt right. So, so there you go.
So thank you so much for spending some time with me. This was absolutely great.
You're welcome, man. Take care.
To everybody else who's listening right now, thank you for being a part of this audience and for following along and listening. And we'll see you on another episode of the Spotlight Series. Bye-bye.
There's a plague upon the land, a darkness on the sun. They're killers on the loose and they've got guns. And I can't watch the news, it scares me after death. Hold on, folks, and let me catch my breath. We send our kids to school, they hide under the desks. They go to bed at night wondering who'll be next. And everybody knows that something's gotta change. That's when you hear that old refrain. Thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. Let's just leave it to the men upstairs. Doesn't matter what you saw, ain't no need to change the law. Thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. Ooh. Look at that headline. I'll say it isn't true. All those people crying, wondering what to do. And everybody knows that this is just wrong. That's when you hear that old song. Thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers, sent directly to the men upstairs. Doesn't matter what you saw, ain't no need to change the law. Thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. Ooh. You stand before your maker, he says, how'd it go down there? When you saw my children hungry, did you find some food to share? Did you try to stop the bloodshed? Come on, tell me what you do. You say, Lord, I left it up to you. Ooh. There's a special place in hell for the leaders of our nation who have the power to change this tragic situation. But there's money to be made if you keep the status quo, and that's why their answer's still no. So close your eyes, my friends, and get down on your knees. I know he can't refuse us if we all say pretty please. But come election day, what I'm talking about, we all show up and vote the bastards out with thoughts and prayers, with thoughts and prayers. Let's get some folks who actually care. I know it may sound rough, but thoughts and prayers just ain't enough. Thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers.